Hi, hello, welcome to Spell Day. We're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHP +3. Those +3 spells are homebrew spells. We're at +2 at the moment. You can back in the playlist to find it. And today's spell, today's spell is a good old classic, Prestidigitation.
Oh my god, Mike! Did you shit your pants?
Oh god, it's so bad! Oh, I'm gonna be sick.
Jesus, I'm leaving. He definitely shit his pants.
I was framed. You could have called me a Jackson Pollock and hung me up right there. Something just didn't smell right, and it wasn't the shit in my pants.
Transmutation cantrip, cast in tempo 1 action, range of 10 feet, commands verbal somatic, duration up to 1 hour. This spell is a minor magical trick that novice spellcasters use for practice. You create one of the following magical effects within range. Also, just to go through this a bit cleaner, because it's been a while since we've had a multi-feature spell, we're going to cover the back end of it, so we know the full restrictions, and then we're going to go through each individual effect. If you cast the spell multiple times, you can have up to 3 of its non-instantaneous effects active at a time, and you can dismiss such an effect as an action. Alright. Here we go. You create an instantaneous, harmless sensory effect such as a shower of sparks, a puff of wind, a faint musical notes, or an odd odor. I mean, it's only instantaneous in the brief moment, but this is a minor illusion. Or, I mean, a really, really minor illusion. Again, a puff of sparks, but it also affects smell, which is nice. It's noise as well, again, the faint musical notes, and the odor. While it's instantaneous and only lasts for the immediate moment, like the faint musical notes, could you possibly string them together into something continuous? Also, when it says harmless sensory effect, does it still have an impact on the area around it? Like, is it an illusion or something you can actually do? Especially since it's a transmutation spell. Though that, we're gonna briefly talk on that. That's just gonna be a catch-all. Because if it's small puff, well, I guess it's a puff of wind, but that still might be enough to blow air into something. Knock a letter off a desk. You instantly light or snuff out a candle, a torch, or a small campfire. Now this one I've seen used a bit more often, though not to a full effect due to its range. It's a nice thing to do. I mean, especially if we're talking in lore and setting, or in world and setting, that's great. Being able to instantly light a fire, yeah, it's not like a full bonfire, set a building on fire, but Firebolt can do something similar, was the fact that you can guarantee it as an instantaneous action. Sure, only 10 feet away, so, I mean, most of the scenarios that I see this brought up in is like, oh, when you're sneaking around and putting out torches and campfires and lanterns that guards are having. But that's only 10 feet. You're gonna have to be quite close. Really, this is best for igniting and snuffing out your own equipment, because you can do it instantaneously. Normally when you're trying to, have you ever tried to put out a fire quickly? Unless you have the proper materials and systems nearby, it's likely going to still be heavily smoking afterwards and probably still burning or smoldering. To be able to instantly put it out, not to mention instantly light it, have you ever, yeah, the inverse of that, have you ever tried to light a fire without lighter fluid, accelerant, or some even basic tools? Because you don't even need tools, it's the cantrip, you don't even need a flint and steel. And it's guaranteed, that's great. Not to mention candles that are in hard to reach places. Talking chandeliers, 10-foot distance from you, depending on how tall the room is, you can get that. Who needs the ladder or the tall boy with the candle wick? I might be thinking of that wrong. That's probably not called a candle wick, it's the tall stick with the small burning bit of twine at the end of it. I forget what that's called. Anywho, next effect. You instantly clean or soil an object no larger than 1 cubic foot. Okay. Okay. Does that mean the spot cleaned is no larger than 1 cubic foot, or the single object can't be more than 1 cubic foot? And now we also get into the effects of the questions with mending in 1 cubic foot again. Okay. Because I've seen a lot of players, and I've also seen other tables and DMs also argue this, is the fact that it is a cubic foot area, not just the object having to fit within that space, and it's used to instantly clean you. Though it does specify object. A creature doesn't really count as an object now, does it? I'm not sure if that's just a homebrew I've bumped into at my tables, the tables I've looked at, but oh man, the amount of times people have just used that to like get nasty effects off of them, or they're just briefly in the sewers, they might get a disease and just Prestidigitation a few times on them and it's gone. That might not be the case. Does that even clean the clothes? I mean, if it fits within a 1-foot cube, obviously, like a gauntlet or a glove, but let's say it's a full-on shirt. That's a little larger than just 1-foot cube. But then, like mending, the question comes like, if you fold it up and then it fits within that space, does that count? Doesn't even need to count in the first place? Is it just a cubic foot at a time because it's an instantaneous effect? Not to mention if it's an area, you could soil many things. I've seen plenty of people do this on nobles that annoyed them, merchants that annoyed them, anyone that annoyed them really, mostly bureaucrats for some reason. Also, it doesn't give a definition of soil. It really doesn't. Because the soil in definition is already pretty vague, and a variety of things can already soil something, so I leave it up to you on what ways it can soil things. Also, where's the material coming from? Not even touching that. You chill, warm, or flavor up to 1 cubic foot of non-living material for 1 hour. How chilled and how warm? And this is one is up for up to an hour. Like, it's probably not hot enough or cold enough to chill, like to heat something up to the point of melting or setting on fire or freezing. So really, it's only for pleasantries? I've seen this in plenty of times in small occasions in role-playing and such and even in World, is like, oh yeah, to heat up your food. It warms it up. If it got cold, done. It's warm for the hour. Oh, your water a bit too hot because you don't have ice available? Just cast Prestidigitation. It's cold now. Well, not cold, but it's chilled. Then you get to the point of it doesn't give a strict temperature or an effect. Like, can this heat metal to the point of helping cook something? Or, like, is it a lukewarm meal and not a hot meal? One other benefit of this is warming or cooling your clothes, which, oh man, I wish I had that. Because yes, the obvious one is heat, where you're walking outside, you have clothes on, and you're not prepared for winter clothes, and you've walked out and it's in a blizzard or snowing. Well, you can have an hour-long effect, or a non-instantaneous effect of up to 3 active at a time. Set this on 3 pieces of clothing. Now and again, it just says warm. How far do you want to stretch that? I allow it to give them some benefits when in the cold, if they're using all 3. You make a color, a small mark, or a symbol appear on an object or surface for 1 hour. This one's not too useful, but it's good for, like, bandit callouts, small symbols on walls, general symbols, a kick me sign on the back of someone. Though, while it does say small mark, the other examples don't give a size discretion, nor does the small mark have a size reference. I think you can have it as large as you want. It doesn't say 1 cubic foot, it just says make a symbol or mark appear on an object or a surface for 1 hour. It's probably not intended. I'd recommend maybe limiting it to the range of the spell of 10 feet, because if there's no real limit, you could just plaster the side of a cliff with a symbol with a cantrip, which might be an entertaining statement. Create a non-magical trinket or an illusionary image that you can fit in your hand and that lasts until the end of your next turn. Okay, well, I mean, what? I mean, it's fun, goofy things. I've seen people use this just as a small gag item to place on someone for a round. Or, you know, make a small statue of them flipping them off, instead of actually, like, revealing their hand to flip them off. It's just the statue flipping them off instead. Small, goofy things like that, but with, like, a lot of illusionary spells and certain transmutation things and anything craft-wise. And again, this only lasts for the end of your next turn. And what's the limit of the trinket in size? Okay, essentially, here's what I'm gonna want. There are so few restrictions put on this. It's the vague magical effect spell compared to other vague magical effect spells and abilities. So while I would normally ask for what your interpretations for what the limits of this are, I'm really just going to ask what fun uses you've had out of this. Because I don't think this should have too many restrictions. I really don't. Because it's the vague small magical gestures and effects and trinkets. I usually see people pick this up just to have fun. So let's have fun. Ten out of 10 is Prestidigitation, and if you can use it to clean clothes, warm food, chill water, I mean, those are already nice luxuries that people will be picking up, especially if it's easy to pick up a cantrip. Which, if feats are there, in some races, yeah.